This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome in, everybody, to this week's episode of the DocNJock Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Adam the Jock Strozinski, and on today's episode, moving a pay-per-view to a smaller location. WWE's doing some crazy stuff. A wrestling Twitter handle absolutely going rogue and really messing things up for themselves and losing a big-time partnership, as well as what's going to take place this weekend with this pay-per-view and AEW and how they might be staging things around the NBA semifinals. We've got the lowdown on all of that, as well as we've got to take a great look at the AEW pay-per-view Double or Nothing and give our predictions. Of course, we're going to take a look at the wrestling world, and doing it with me, as always, he's the one. He is the only. He is the Doc, John Macaroon. What's up, cuz?
Man, what an interesting week, and we're going to preview a major pay-per-view for AEW. Interesting to decide who should go over in some of the biggest bouts. Always look forward to having a great conversation about professional wrestling with my guy, Adam. It was a decent week. I'll be honest, I thought SmackDown was decent, Dynamite, Raw, always kind of doing its thing, but I'm interested to see what you thought about, I think, one of the interesting starts to the week in regards to you open Monday Night Raw and it's just Riddle. And you're like, uh-oh, what has happened? What has occurred? And he cuts a fantastic promo talking about the potential of what's going to happen with RK Bro, giving Randy Orton his flowers, and then setting forth the path of what we think is going to happen, which potentially is a nice push. The Riddle Revenge Tour potentially going on for the man, the character formerly known as Matt Riddle, now had his name cut short to Riddle. I thought it was great. I thought it was a nice way to introduce this version of Riddle and somebody that I think everybody believes has a chance to succeed at high levels.
Yeah, and it wasn't just on Friday night. He also opened up SmackDown, and it really does feel like it is the Riddle Revenge Tour. He is taking out, or he's at least set aim on taking out everybody in the bloodline. Roman Reigns being number one and then taking out the Usos as number twos. So it's really interesting to see this guy come out and, like you said, give a very impassioned promo, really putting Randy Orton over and really putting seeds of doubt as to what's going to happen with Randy Orton. You fast forward to SmackDown, Michael Cole says that Randy Orton is basically seeing a spinal neurologist for his back. So there's some doubt there with what's going to happen with Randy. And because of that, Riddle is set up beautifully. This whole thing with Randy Orton, this whole time for RK Bro, this has really helped shine a major spotlight on Matt Riddle. One, Randy Orton looked like he was having the time of his life. Two, Matt Riddle has been elevated now to be a guy who is a legit threat to Roman Reigns. And it makes sense that he would challenge Roman Reigns. You have a storyline here. On top of that, he can still keep his feet in the tag waters, and he can challenge the Usos. He can do it all right now. I thought this is a really interesting, I thought it was a really great way to set up this character and to really allow him to go out on his own and do his own thing. And I think it was highlighted on Monday night with that promo that he cut. There were points where he looked like he was really choked up. There were points where he looked like he was really sad. Then there were points where he looked like he was really mad. And it just kind of went through the whole stages of emotion right there in front of you, really sucking you into what's taking place. I think it's going to be really fun to watch how this plays out. We talked a little bit about it last week. Matt Riddle is going to be the next guy in line for Roman Reigns. At least that's what's being discussed right now. And that looks like that's the direction we're headed. I think this is basically Matt Riddle's time to shine. He's going to get to work with arguably the biggest heel and the best in WWE, taking on Roman Reigns. He gets to work in a great storyline that has captivated both Monday Night Raw and SmackDown, so he'll be doing double duty. I think this is a really awesome way to highlight a really awesome wrestler, and he's so interesting, he's so funny, and I think this has dollar signs all over it. I'm really intrigued by it.
I am too, and I think that it's a natural progression, like you said. And you have the potential, too, to continue to elevate Roman Reigns, because Riddle is a believable and is somebody that is getting over. So even though he might not win the title, I think it's a natural progression and has an awesome opportunity to do some good things.
Yeah, most definitely. Now, something that I'm not really intrigued in is what we're setting up for Hell in the Cell. Hell in the Cell is WWE's next big pay-per-view. It's around the corner. And you ended up having a match on Monday Night Raw where Becky fought Asuka. Becky wins. Becky gets to be inserted into a triple threat match in Hell in the Cell for the Women's Raw Championship. I don't like this. Generally, I don't care for triple threat matches. I just think that there's just sometimes too much going on. I think the last triple threat match that we had that was really, really good, Becky Lynch was involved in it. It was Becky, Charlotte, and Ronda Rousey. But I'm not invested in this storyline. I'm not invested in this Becky Lynch character. I'm not invested in any of what we've got going on. I'll be honest with you. I love Becky Lynch. I want her to go away. Go away and come back as something different, because what we're getting, it's just missing the mark for me. I don't know what it is. And maybe she'll win me over as we get closer to Hell in the Cell, but I don't think so. I'm not on the same page as WWE and their creative with this setup. I don't like the triple threat match. I don't like that Becky got reinserted into it. I don't like this character for Becky Lynch. How are you feeling about the triple threat match for Hell in the Cell and how they're positioning the Raw Women's Championship? Yeah,
I think generally speaking, what happens is why people do not like the triple threat is because you introduce a match that people kind of want to see. And then you add the person that has already been in feuds, has already been in the spotlight. Like, what's the value really of having Becky Lynch in this? Like, is she going to win it? I get the story and things like that, the issues that she has with Bianca Belair. But by and large, we've seen it, done it. How many times are you going to go back to the same well when we would have liked to have seen a fresh Asuka get a push, a fresh scene, and potentially Asuka winning? Now, would I bet that Asuka wins? No, but you open the door. But now when you introduce Becky Lynch, it just further diminishes the belief that Asuka's going to win. So if you're going to do it, you got to have Asuka win it. That'd be sweet. That would be a surprise. That would add credence to kind of those of us that are being critical. But absolutely, I'm just not a fan of this triple threat match. It added late in the situation. So it's just the way it is, and that's how WWE has been, and that's the way they just mix in the people in the feuds is, hey, let's have a triple threat. But it's played out, and I think you and I agree.
I just sometimes feel like they try to wedge too much stuff into a match, into a segment, and what ends up happening is it just kind of really takes away from either the overall excitement of something or what we were originally going to get. It's sometimes too much is not good. You know what I'm saying? It's like you can this is the whole thing that comes with editing, right? You and I both know this. Sometimes you have to leave some really good stuff on the floor, and the reason for doing that is to give you a much better product. And sometimes simpler is better, and I feel like WWE misses the mark on this quite a bit, and especially in this situation. I feel like it is killing an already weak women's division by basically trying to shoehorn Becky Lynch into a match with Asuka and Bianca Belair. Now, on SmackDown, I think Sami Zayn, over the last couple weeks, has become increasingly more interesting, more entertaining. And I've used the word interesting a lot already in this show. But I use it because it's for characters that basically make you stop what you're doing and pay attention to them. And Sami Zayn has done that. This role that he has been in, where he is this pseudo bloodline member, I think it's incredibly funny. We all know what the deal is. We all know that he's not part of it. But in his mind, he believes he is. Does a KO show with Kevin Owens, and Kevin Owens is trying to win him over to his side. And he's like, yeah, this is great, everything you're doing. He's like, yeah, thanks, I'm glad you recognize. And then at the end, Kevin Owens does what Kevin Owens does, turns on him a little bit. He's like, you're not even part of that. Like, it's all fake. It's all make-believe. And you can just see Sami Zayn, again, going through all of the emotions on his face. I think Sami Zayn in this role, I'm not even sure how to describe this role as in fake bloodline member. I don't know what we call it.
I think the highlight of the week for me was, if you check his Twitter page, he put a video with the Usos intro music with him coming out to it.
Yeah,
I thought that was the tweet of the week. I thought that was one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
Did you see the picture of the three of them? It was it was the Usos and it was Roman Reigns, and then they photoshopped a young Sami Zayn into it. It's like been down since day one ish.
It's good. It's good, and that's what makes Sami Zayn ultimately creative, is that he's got the talent, and the man is just ultimately really an entertainer, and it's funny. He's always been kind of in the mid-card scene and the Intercontinental title scene. But look, when you put him with the Bloodline, it was great, and I think he's doing wonderful things to keep himself relevant, refreshing himself and things like that. But just quickly to your point, I just had a quick thought about Becky Lynch. Nobody really likes the crazy gal character. It just doesn't really work. It just doesn't really work. And I just think that you're right. Becky Lynch should move forward because you have money there, but I think you've diminished her. And maybe got to find ways like Sami Zayn to make her fresh and relevant. Maybe a little bit of fun, or I think she's better off as a face than a heel in my mind, based on what we've seen so far. But yeah, Sami Zayn with the Usos and the Bloodline has been utterly hilarious, especially since he thinks he's the enforcer of the Bloodline.
to double back to Sami Zayn, did you hear about JBL? JBL was a producer in WWE, but he was only like a producer for like a week. And he was paired with Sami Zayn, and after working with Sami Zayn, he was like, I'm done. I'm out. I don't want to do it no more. I guess Sami Zayn just grated on him and just grinded on him so much that he quit being a producer for WWE because Sami Zayn questions everything. They're setting up matches, and Sami Zayn wants to know why we're doing this. Basically, what's the end payoff? How is this going to work? Where are we going with this? Which, kudos to Sami Zayn for asking those questions. And JBL was just like, I'm tired of answering all of his questions. And basically after a week, just went and was like, I'm out. I'm done. Do it no more.
He's like, I can't take it. Like, dude, just do the hip lock, just do a suplex, win the match, lose the match, and go home. He's an incredibly talented wrestler, and I find him to be very entertaining. But he's like, I just can't deal with the utter minutia of just going through why, which is very funny to me. I mean, again, we talk about this all the time. If you're a character, you even post something great on Twitter the other day. And if you're not following us on Twitter, follow us on Twitter at Detroit Podcast. If you were given a character and given a buttload of money, would you be able to get it over? Would you challenge it? And Sami Zayn's one of those guys who they give him characters and he still continues to challenge the creative process, which I think is great because that means you're working to get the best out of your character. I think that's exactly.
Fantastic.
And it goes to the point, and I'll bring it up later, what I tweeted, but it goes to the point, and I don't know, I recall who said it, but it brings you to this point, okay? And we'll use a gimmick that is just really ridiculous, but it's gotten over. Do you see somebody named Nikki ASH being your world champion and being on a headline in a marquee to sell a pay-per-view? And the answer is no. So if you're given a terrible gimmick, if you're given one of the awful gimmicks that has been out there, and if you want to be entertained, just Google 40 worst WWE gimmicks. You will see a collection of names that are so embarrassing that it just behooves the point that you should be invested in your character, because bottom line, yes, you're getting paid hefty, but at the same time, there is some level of realization that these are people, and they don't want to go out there with masks on their face and being called stupid names. I couldn't do it. I thought about it again. You couldn't pay me to call myself Max Dupree. I just would be like, come on, Max Dupree.
No, it's Max Dupree.
Dupree. Exactly. Dude, all he had to do was say, look, Vince, just please pay the rights to whoever owns it and call me Eli Drake. I mean, how the hell are you going to fuck up Eli Drake? It's a marketable name. It's fine. He built himself off of it in multiple promotions. Just pay the extra money. WWE can make one phone call, and the man is Eli Drake. Fine, Eli Drake can be the model agency, talent evaluator, whatever the hell his new gimmick is, but Max Dupree, do you see that name headlining WrestleMania on a pay-per-view? No. So that's why it's just important that Sami Zayn continues to do it. It's your career, and certain people care. And I think there's respect in the business, and Vince would have it because he knows that people care because he's all about it too. He's fucking changing cards half hour before the show. So I think it's just JBL's problem.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's one of those things where JBL's, I think, from that old school where this is what we're giving you, make it work, get it over. And Sami Zayn's a little bit new school where it's like, well, I want to know why. What's my motivation? How am I going to do this? What's the plan?
Both parties are right, probably.
Yeah. All right. Anything else on Monday Night Raw or SmackDown that really captured your attention?
What did you? I wrote it down late here. That's what I was doing, was just reviewing my last couple notes before we started. What did you think of the Usos promo on SmackDown?
I thought it was good.
It was good.
I thought it was really good. This was the thing is, I was watching it and I wanted to buy into the early part of it, right? They seemed emotional. They seemed like, I was like, what is going on here? This is weird. It almost seems like it's a babyface promo.
Yes.
And you were waiting for the turn, and you eventually got the turn, and it went full-blown heel, but I thought it was so good. I thought it was so creative the way they did it. It was fantastic. Absolutely.
That was one of the highlights of WWE for me as well, was the Usos handling their business. They looked the part, and like I said on last week's podcast, at the expense of the team that lost, you still sometimes have to look at the team that won, and the Usos have been down since day one-ish, and it was great. I'm buying what they're selling, and it's cool. It's kudos to WWE for doing what they did with the tag team that has been around a long time and that is affiliated with one of the top marketed stars in the company.
Yeah, I thought it was done extremely well. I thought they did a fantastic job. And again, we talk about getting you to stop what you're doing to pay attention, right? Like, that's how I know if wrestling is good. If it stops me from messing around on my phone, stops me from doing something in the kitchen, stops me from walking around the house, and gets me to stop and stay in place and long enough to watch your segment. That segment did that. I was gripped by it. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. You want to do a quick review of Impact before we jump into AEW and get into our AEW predictions later on?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to see how you think about how the AEW pay-per-view is going to shake out.
It's going to be a tough go. It's going to be a long pay-per-view too. We're going to talk about it.
Oh, it is, huh? It's going to be a long pay-per-view.
Very similar to a couple of weeks ago, or to AEW's last pay-per-view that we had a couple of months ago, where that one just seemed like it went on for maybe an hour too long. Expect that. We're going to talk about that in the news and notes, get you all brushed up on that.
Okay.
Of course, we're going to take a look at what took place with Dynamite, Rampage, talk about that. But quickly, what was your highlight of Impact?
I like Chelsea Green taking on Jordynne Grace. I'm definitely intrigued by what Chelsea Green brings to the table. I think she's a marketable character. She doesn't win a lot though, which is crazy, but she did get the win. Here's the thing. Both ladies I thought needed the win, and I was just reading my notes here. Even though I think she deserves a push, I think the match itself was really good, and Grace getting the pin was fine, but in my mind, Chelsea Green, I just feel like she's over. I think she gets the Grace driver for the pin. About a 10-minute match in regards to how it went down. You had Chris Sabin taking on Frankie Kazarian. I thought it was a good match. You had the opening of Impact involved the recap of the Briscoes, which I thought was good. You had the Briscoes and Josh Alexander taking on Violent by Design. I thought it was a great matchup. 17 minutes. Everybody, I think, when you look at Impact, there are certain groups that people have gravitated toward. And Violent by Design, having them in a 6-man tag like this really was quality, and they get the W. Young gets the pile driver and sets up the victory at the 17-minute mark of the matchup. So here are the quick results. Trey Miguel beats Alex Shelley. Slamovich defeats Havoc. Jordynne Grace defeats Chelsea Green. Kazarian defeats Chris Sabin. William Morrissey and his tag team partner defeated Singh and Shera, and then Violent by Design get the victory. They defeated the Briscoes with Josh Alexander. It was a good show. I am liking, obviously, the progression of a couple of the characters there. I thought that, like I said, Chelsea Green stood out to me. Even though Jordan Grace gets the W and Chelsea doesn't win a lot, I think that there's something there. And then obviously at the high ends of Impact, there's some great things going on. So it's a good card. It was B plus show, B plus. For me, like I said, I'm interested in a little bit of different characters as well, like William Morrissey and the likes of Moose and the other characters there that are at the top. But really, when you look at it, Impact has been steady. And they earn a spot on a lot of podcasts. They do a lot of good things. So I thought it was a great show and setting up quality as they move forward in this year.
Yeah, Impact always doing a lot of really good things. And I think with the crossover with AEW, really helping out, bringing different eyes, and really helping to try to build out what they already have as a really good foundation. Now, speaking of AEW, I thought Wednesday night was fantastic. It was a great go-home show. I thought it was wonderful. The match that has me most interested in this pay-per-view, probably Wardlow MJF. Has this been the best build leading into this pay-per-view? Again, another long-term storyline that we have. I would say it's been quite captivating, and the way it's brought you in is a lot of mouth work by MJF and a lot of physicality by Wardlow, which is kind of weird when you're looking at building a story. You have this big physical beast. He hasn't really said anything on a microphone except for release me. That's pretty much all he said. But MJF continues to do yeoman's work by laying down promo after promo after promo. Wardlow doing a fantastic job with everything physical, whether it be facial expressions, whether it be beating up security guards, whether it be doing powerbomb symphonies, whatever it takes, taking lashes, Wardlow getting over the physicality while MJF has done a great job on the microphone. Has this been the best build to this pay-per-view, to Double or Nothing? Is this the one storyline that has you probably most captivated?
Yeah, I think so. I'll finish it. What was your last thought? Is this the one that has me the most captivated, or what?
Yeah. Is this the one that has you most captivated? And how would you build this to finish? Like, how would you have this match play out on this pay-per-view?
It's tough too because MJF has taken some losses, right? He's taken some losses in feuds to CM Punk and things like that. So he feels like he needs to do some heel type shit. But in essence, this is the payoff when you have a top heel, is that, refresh my memory. Is there any stipulations to this match? No rule, no disqualification, anything like that? Or is it a straight up match?
I believe it's just a straight up match.
Okay. So then this kind of has the belief that the top option should be a wonky finish, a disqualification. Something happens where nobody gets over, because obviously I think what's going to happen is Wardlow is going to get the massive pop, because typically when someone deals with that much shit, they usually get their comeuppance at the pay-per-view. But I'm just a huge fan of MJF and what he's doing. And this is one of those situations where you can just keep it going. I mean, it can be wonky. It can be a bad finish. It can be something crazy. It can be, MJF doing something really outlandish in regards to not accepting a loss. Or if it's in typical wrestling fashion, you could see Wardlow get the quick finish. Something happens, boom, boom, powerbomb wins, and then MJF still ends up on top in regards to just kicking his ass afterwards. So it has been amazing in their build. It's great. Everything MJF does has a sense of quality to it. But, I mean, I think the best situation would be to capitalize on a rising star, which is getting over Wardlow.
Yeah, I would almost set this up as a squash match. Have Wardlow go in and just completely physically dominate MJF. At some point, the referee gets distracted. Sean Spears comes out, hits Wardlow with a chair. Wardlow has no sold chair shots before. I think he can then take out Sean Spears, and then Wardlow comes from behind, maybe low blow. That's like his only offense. Just goes to basically stomping Wardlow Wardlow rises from the ashes, grabs him, choke slams him, picks him up, and then powerbomb Symphony for the win. It's kind of how I would build this match out. I think this has been absolutely great. This is the way you build a star. And I think that's what you have here with Wardlow. Wardlow is I don't want to say he's on the cusp because I believe he's already there. Wardlow is a star, and it has been everything that they have done from the very beginning with MJF, and it's been absolutely fantastic. I love this. I think it's great. I wanted to get your thoughts on the debut of Jeff Cobb, who is a super over wrestler. I would say on the indie scenes in New Japan. I believe he wrestled in Impact. Also, Great O'Khan. They basically came out and they wanted to lay claim to those ROH championships. What did you think about the debut of these two?
Yeah, I thought it was great. I thought that, obviously they've been in the circuit and things like that, maybe potentially rumored to show up. So, when you have, Tony Khan purchasing Ring of Honor, it's great to establish new stars and new storylines and things like that. So I thought it was great. The pop was cool. I thought that when you see the opportunity for people that have been grinding for a long time to get their shot finally, now it's about what are you going to do with it. And I think Jeff Cobb and I don't doubt for a second he'll have the opportunity to have some success.
Yeah, I think that both these guys coming in, I think it tells a really good story. I think this sets up again for the Forbidden Door pay-per-view, and it kind of points us in that direction. Again, Tony Khan, owner of ROH. There's a ton that he can do with ROH and with all the championships associated with it. And I think this is a great way to kind of help bridge that gap between New Japan, AEW, and ROH. You can use all of those platforms to really introduce different characters and different wrestlers to fans here, which is fantastic. Now, we usually speak really glowingly about AEW. We think they do a ton of stuff right. I don't know what's going on with this women's division, though. I think AEW has done such a piss-poor job with booking the women since Britt Baker dropped her belt. Now, I get Britt Baker's probably your biggest star, and when the championship was on her, it was easy to sell. I think Thunder Rosa is absolutely fantastic. I think you've done a bad job of portraying Thunder Rosa, which in turn has led to a lack of getting other women over and really building towards this storyline with Serena Deeb. I think what you have here is just a botch on AEW and creative with the ladies. I just don't think they've done a very good job. A perfect point. You have Thunder Rosa cutting a promo. Thunder Rosa is going. Now you've given the men as much time as they want. Thunder Rosa's out there cutting a promo, and before she's done, you start playing her music, basically giving her the hook. I don't know if anybody else caught that, but
everybody caught it. Everybody caught it. It was like, that's not what you should be doing to the champion, nonetheless.
Yeah. I feel like Thunder Rosa has been a completely disrespected champion, and I'm not sure what direction they want to go in with the women. Do you want to treat your women like WWE treats their women? Give them 5-minute matches and just kind of throw them out there sometimes to break it up? Or do you actually want to have a legit women's division? Because I feel like Jade Cargill gets a little bit more respect than Thunder Rosa. And Jade Cargill has a garbage-ass title, that TBS championship, and Jade Cargill is trash in the ring, and she's garbage on a microphone. She's got a fantastic look. Like, physically, she looks amazing. But she is trash on a microphone, and she seems almost borderline unsafe in the ring. Thunder Rosa is the complete opposite. She's pretty good on a microphone, and she's fantastic in the ring. And yet, you give her zero respect. What is going on with AEW and the women?
I don't know. I thought that potentially Tony Storm would come in and potentially have presence, Ruby Soho. It just seems like you're trying to maybe give too many women too much attention. And you realize that sometimes you just need to establish one as the star. Thunder Rosa's good in the ring, but is she box office? I wouldn't pay to go see Thunder Rosa. So that's where I'm saying you have to do a little bit more.
Would you go and see Britt Baker?
Yes, Britt Baker, Tony Storm. And Jade Cargill has a look, so something maybe behind the scenes with vignettes and stuff like that is intriguing. But you're absolutely right. They've not done a good enough job of moving forward storylines, having compelling matches, and doing a bunch of things that make it interesting. So you end up with basically where Britt Baker is, the one that's over the most, but then there's not a lot of intrigue. And that's also the job of a promotion, is to create intrigue. You have Ruby Soho come in and she gets lost in the shuffle almost pretty quickly. So you can't have that. You got to have somebody get a series of wins and have some success. Well, just look at what happened on Rampage. You have, I think, is it Statlander?
Yeah.
And the crowd is not happy with the result.
No, that's where I wanted to go with this.
Of Ruby Soho winning, and you're like, oh, that's not the reaction I think you wanted to have.
Exactly.
At that point, and but at the same time, Soho and Britt Baker is the marquee match, so at least the crowd reacted. But it was interesting that how Statlander caught the favor of the crowd, and they were not happy with the result of a match, which was interesting.
This is kind of where I wanted to direct this conversation, because what you had on Rampage on Friday night I thought was fascinating. Chris Statlander, extremely over. This is somebody who has basically scratched and clawed. She was not a household name before AEW, comes into AEW, does a really good job, does this little team up with the best friends, but then kind of goes on her own way, gets this revamped character, and she's gotten it over. And she is a crowd favorite. The crowd wanted her to win. Her promo on Rampage was fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. I came to this company. I didn't have anything. All I have now is a blown out knee, because her knee she tore her ACL and did a whole bunch of other damage to her knee. And she's lost all of her friends. It's just her. It was such a good promo. It got you sucked into her character. And you have this match, and she looks good. She's good in the ring. She can work. Ruby Soho ends up getting the win. The fans aren't happy. Britt Baker comes out. She's cheered. Ruby Soho is booed. It is really weird, because Britt Baker is supposed to be a heel. Ruby Soho is supposed to be the face. And the way that this has been booked and the way the fans are reacting are completely opposite of each other. And Britt Baker, I feel like at a certain point, has tuned down her star power and tuned down what she is to try to help elevate the rest of the female division. Britt Baker came out on stage yesterday, or on Friday, and did not cut a promo at all. Just held onto the microphone, was about to speak, and then Ruby Soho cut her off, and she just let her go. And she just kind of took a step back and just took it. Didn't bother saying anything. Anything that Britt Baker would have said at that time would have totally derailed any momentum that Ruby Soho had. I think Britt Baker realizes that she is the face of the women's division, and she has to help elevate it. And because of that, she has tuned down her own persona, which I think is a detriment. I don't think it's the right thing to do for this women's division. I think she needs to turn it up more, and everybody has to get to her level. And I think Statlander was somebody who could probably get to her level. It's really weird the way the women have been booked, and it's really frustrating, because there's a lot of really talented women on this roster, and you're just not seeing it.
Yeah, anything that they could do to kind of jumpstart it?
I mean, I think you just have to give them, and this is kind of the double-edged sword with it, right? We've seen a lot of the women's matches where they've not been crisp, they've not been clean. There's been botch after botch after botch, but you have to give them more time. You have to give them the ability to go out and cut promos like Statlander cut on Friday night to get you invested, and you've got to be able to give them that 10, 15 minutes in the ring. You can't give them 5 minutes in the ring, and you can't have everything be a no DQ, It was cute when it was Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa, and you got it. The second time around, I feel like it really lost some of its impact. The first time, it was absolutely fantastic. It was the match of the year. The second time around, when Thunder Rosa ends up winning the championship, I thought it kind of diminished some of the importance of that previous match. And when you look at the matches that Shida and Serena Deeb have had, where they brawl all over the place, that doesn't work. It doesn't necessarily get that over. I understand that you're upset, but that should be the last out. And again, this just goes back to booking and how you want to book these matches. I think you have regular wrestling matches, and you try to have what makes logical sense as far as finishes. And when you get to the very end, right? So the third, fourth match in the storyline that you're trying to tell, that's when you can get ultra violent. That's when you can go all out. You can have a Philly street fight. You can have a kendo stick match. You can have a no holds barred, anything goes match. But you don't need that for match number 2. Like, let's build. Let's get there. And then when you do incorporate those weapons and you do incorporate those things, you got to make sure the camera angles are showing you what you need to see and what you don't need to see. Because there's a lot of times where you and I will watch a match and we don't sit next to each other watching it together. We're normally, you're at home, I'm at home, and we're watching it together, texting through the phone, and we're highlighting botches. Like, that's a missed spot. That's a missed spot. She's selling something that she never even got hit with. Like, what are we doing? And it takes the believability away, and it really diminishes what the women have. Like I said, it's a double-edged sword. You have to give them more time to tell their story, but they, at the same point, have to elevate their game and get more crisp and be better. And I think that's the only way to salvage this women's division is by doing that. What did you?
Yeah, I can agree. I can agree 100%. I can agree with you, but they got to do something quickly.
Yeah, it sucks, man, because we're going to have a pay-per-view coming up here this weekend, and it should be fantastic. And the women are going to get highlighted. They're going to have a major match on this pay-per-view, and you just hope that it isn't shit, you know? And it could be something that really brings down the pay-per-view. We go back and we watch the last pay-per-view AEW gave us. The women's match was the clunker of the entire evening. It just wasn't good. It wasn't crisp. So fingers crossed we don't have that. We're going to have multiple women's matches on this pay-per-view, and hopefully they're all good. What was your show of the week before we get into our predictions, which is going to be an incredibly difficult segment with the predictions?
Yeah, absolutely. But I thought it was SmackDown. I thought it was a good show. Riddle opens it. Usos promo, I thought, capped it off for me. And I thought that they've done a good job at least getting things to where you can be succinct and handle your business. I thought, for me, it was SmackDown.
Okay, cool. I'm going to go with Dynamite. I thought Dynamite was fantastic. For a go-home show, there was so much there. I thought it was really well done. Has me interested in this pay-per-view. So it's one of those things where this pay-per-view has now become appointment viewing for my Sunday. It's a holiday weekend. I should be looking out and doing anything else, but I'm going to be making time for this pay-per-view. And again, this pay-per-view may run long, and we're going to get into that here coming up with the news and notes segment. But is this the Dynamite show really got me interested. I thought SmackDown was absolutely fantastic. So we'll split the point. We'll give SmackDown a half point. We'll give Dynamite the other half. Now, speaking of the pay-per-view, Double or Nothing taking place on Sunday. This pay-per-view has an extremely stacked card. This is one of AEW's bigger pay-per-views of the year. Again, AEW does something completely different than WWE. WWE gives you a pay-per-view a month. AEW gives you a pay-per-view basically every other month or every quarter. They kind of spread them out, and when they give them to you, they are massive. This one, jam-packed, busting at the seams. This looks to be a huge, long card. Let's start with the World Championship. AEW's World Championship, Adam Hangman Page defends against CM Punk. I think we both agree Hangman's run as champion has not been great. There feels like there's something missing. Feels like there is a little bit of a disconnect from being the guy who everybody wanted to get the championship to being the guy who has the championship. Something has fallen flat. Something is missing here. CM Punk comes back, obviously fan favorite. Everybody loves CM Punk. What do you do here? Do you allow Hangman Page to retain his belt, or do you have CM Punk come in and win this? Because I think this build has been a little bit herky-jerky.
Yeah.
You've got Hangman as a face, and then you've got CM Punk as a face, and then they're flipping roles working heel, flipping roles working face, and it's been back and forth, and I just don't know who the good guy, who the bad guy is in this, and I'm okay with that, but you better deliver on a really good match.
It will be a good match. It's just not time yet for CM Punk. It doesn't feel ready yet. So you gotta continue to establish Adam Hangman Page. You can't take the title off of him, because then I think what's next for him? I think that at this point in time, you need to continue to establish your big time champ. It'll be a great match, but CM Punk falls short. It's going to be Hangman Page. It's going to be Hangman Page raising his hand in victory.
Like I said, something has felt off with his run. And I think a win over CM Punk helps make things feel a little bit more right. I think it helps put him in a new light. I think it helps catapult his character. I think you're right. Hangman gets the win, and I think it helps salvage what has been a bit of a miss on a championship run. I think that's the way you get it. Singles match, MJF versus Wardlow. I already told you how I would book this, so I'm going to go Wardlow. I think you're in lockstep with me on that one. I think Wardlow just dominating MJF is the way to build this one out and is the way to go. Who do you have?
Wardlow, get him over. Move him into a picture, man. TNT champ, baby. He's a big time player. Make the player get the W. He goes over.
I think, you know what? I think that is incredibly interesting. I didn't even think about that, but Wardlow as the TNT champion, Wardlow and Scorpio Sky could have a fantastic match. Scorpio Sky can work with anybody, and Wardlow has shown the ability to work with anybody as well. I think that would be an incredible way to get Wardlow over. I think it'd be fantastic. Now we have the AEW Women's World Championship. Now again, hoping this is not a clunker because the build to this has been absolute trash. Thunder Rosa defends against Serena Deeb. I'm going to take Thunder Rosa because I'm a huge fan of her. I don't know. Serena Deeb she's really good in the ring. Cutting promos, not her strong suit. It's one of those things where I feel like she's kind of like the Natalya of AEW. She's a better ring general than she is just about anything else. I'm going to go Thunder Rosa for this one. I don't even know how the hell we got here. There's been such a bad build. There's nothing. I'm not interested in this match at all, and I'm a huge Thunder Rosa fan. I mean, that tells you everything you need to know about this.
Yeah, Thunder Rosa walks in the champ, walks out the champ.
Now this next match could be a headliner on any pay-per-view, any day of any week, wherever. The Men's Owen Hart Foundation Tournament Final. Adam Cole versus Samoa Joe. This match, like I said, could highlight any pay-per-view, anytime, anywhere, and yet this match will probably be the fourth main event, or the fourth match from the main event. Really interesting that we have such a stacked, deep card, and I think it's kudos to Tony Khan for giving it to us. Who do you have winning this one, Adam Cole or Samoa Joe?
I think, just based on the card, what a way to start the pay-per-view by this match.
Ooh.
I think this one should start the pay-per-view because you'll get people up into it right away. Samoa Joe will be somebody that the fans will be gravitating toward, but best for business is to highlight one of the best wrestlers in your company. So for me, the person that should deserve to win this is Adam Cole. He's the best wrestler. He's more over in regards to the fact that he's more believable as a top guy. You got to keep ascending this character to be somebody that people want to pay for. His ovations are loud every time he comes out, whether he goes through the ring or not. Adam Cole should be the inaugural champ.
All right, I like it. I'm going to go opposite of you. I'm going to go Samoa Joe. I don't really have a good reason besides he's Samoa Joe. So I'm going to go Joe winning this. I think Adam Cole loses this. I have no idea when Kenny Omega is coming back. Dave Meltzer recently stated that he just had hernia surgery. Remember, Kenny Omega is dealing with multiple medical issues. So sounds like he's going to be sidelined a little bit more. Was thinking maybe he could come back and there could be something here. But I think Adam Cole loses this, and it adds to that storyline when Kenny Omega comes back. Now we've got the Women's Owen Hart Foundation Tournament Final. I think what's best for business is Britt Baker losing. I think Britt Baker winning probably makes the most sense. I'm going to go Ruby Soho here, just because again I think it's probably is what's best for business. Britt Baker incredibly over. You got to build other contenders. You got to build other women. So how do you do that? You do that on the backs of your stars. Britt Baker is a legitimate star in AEW. I think a way to help elevate Ruby Soho and get her out of that mix is to help and have her win this match. I'm going to go Ruby Soho.
Power couple, baby. It's the Dr. DMD, baby. Britt Baker takes it down. So it's Adam Cole and Dr. Britt Baker winning the inaugural tournament.
I'm going to be honest with you. I do not feel confident in either one of my Owen Hart Foundation Tournament final picks. Neither one. I could see it going either way. And I think that tells you that you got something good there, but not confident in anything that I've picked there with those two. Now we have the AEW World Tag Team Championships. We've got Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus defending against Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland versus Powerhouse Hobbs and Ricky Starks. I'll be honest with you, I don't know which direction I'm going in. I do know that we are changing the Tag Team Championships, though. They're going to go on somebody else. I have to figure out which one of the two teams I want it to go on. Who do you have this going on?
I think it's Powerhouse Hobbs. I thought that, this is a massive individual that can be somebody that with the belt looks really good. And I would believe could be somebody that in the next couple days could handle his business.
So as we're kind of going through and I was looking at this, I was thinking Ricky Starks, Powerhouse Hobbs probably should get this belt. But you pick Powerhouse Hobbs, you pick Ricky Starks. I'm going to go Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland, just to be opposite of you. And if my other picks aren't basically in line, it gives me a fighting chance if you're wrong on this one. So out of desperation, I'm picking Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland.
Not bad.
Now, Anarchy in the Arena. Bryan Danielson, Eddie Kingston, Jon Moxley, dudes who are all great on the microphone. Ortiz and Santana, dudes who are great in the ring. Versus the Jericho Appreciation Society. Who do you have winning this one?
Kingston's got to get his revenge. When you get a fireball to the face, how do you come back and get a loss there? So I see Kingston and Bryan Danielson and handling their business. It'll be a slobber knocker for sure.
And I think Chris Jericho, every time they have these massive 5-man tag matches, I think he loses all of them. So there might have been one that he won. I'm gonna go Eddie Kingston, Bryan Danielson, Jon Moxley, Santana, and Ortiz as well. Jeff Hardy and Matt Hardy versus the Young Bucks. You see Gangrel on Friday night? How great was that?
That was crazy,
awesome.
Huh? A lot of people like that, huh?
I thought it was great. I thought the Young Bucks coming out doing their best. Jeff and Matt Hardy was absolutely fantastic. Like, these two teams are mirror images of each other. They are the Young Bucks are Jeff and Matt Hardy mixed with a little bit of the Rockers. That's what you get when you have the Young Bucks. Who do you have winning this one? Is it the old school or is it the new school?
See, here's the problem. As a longtime wrestling fan conditioned to watch WWE, you would think that the Hardys are brought in to put over the Young Bucks. But this is different. This is something that I think potentially has the makings of a great match. My heart says the Young Bucks, but something tells me you're also trying to establish the Hardys in AEW. So give me the Hardys because I think that for some reason they, are still the team to beat. There's a lot of respect. You don't just come in and mess with Jeff Hardy and Matt Hardy. Otherwise, if when this match is done and the Hardys are the ones laying down, then it just tells me that, okay, this is their job now. They are the guys in the ring to just put over the young cats. But I still think there's some juice left. And the only way you can establish that is if the Hardys win.
I agree with you. I for some reason, I think the smart move, Young Bucks, right? Get them over. They're already over, but help establish them more as that tag team. But I think you bring Matt and Jeff in, and I think this is a way to really help get them over. And it'll be interesting because these two brothers, Jeff and Matt, have reinvented themselves so many times. Do they reinvent themselves after this win? I think it'll be interesting to kind of see what happens and what takes place. I'm going to go with the Hardys as well. We do have a last-second singles match that was added, and I'll give you a little bit more background when we get to the news and notes as to why this match was added. Just remember that Kyle O'Reilly and Darby Allin have been added as a singles match because this card isn't jam-packed enough. Who do you have winning this one?
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, I'll tell you about it when we get to news and notes. I don't want to spoil news and notes.
So Darby Allin, you said, against Kyle O'Reilly? You got to give me Darby. Yeah, Darby Allin, I think, will handle it.
Long, especially after I give you the reason why.
Yeah, absolutely. So is that the card? That's the card?
No, we still have more. We've got three more matches.
Okay, 3 more. Jesus, you're right. It is long. So I think you'll be signaled as to when I fall asleep because if this goes past 11:30, I might be out, dude. Shit, that's long. Okay, 3 more.
Crazy. So the TBS Championship match, Jade Cargill, Anna Jay. I would love for Anna Jay to win this, and I'm just going to go with my heart. I'm going to say Anna Jay wins this. I don't think it happens.
No,
but
Jade Cargill wins it.
I'm giving you an easy layup. I'm giving you the win. Death Triangle versus House of Black. Who do you have winning this one in the trios match?
Yeah, House of Black, no doubt.
House of Black. I'm gonna go We'll go Death Triangle. A lot of differences with us with this one. I mean, that tells you what this card and how this build has been.
Yeah.
Where we are pretty much in lockstep with each other, and this time around, not so much. So we've got Danhausen and Hook. This is the buy-in. This is the opening match. Danhausen and Hook versus Mark Sterling and Tony Nese.
Oh, no doubt about it. It's going to be Danhausen and Hook.
Yeah, exactly. Look, Mark Sterling, he's there to be a mouthpiece. So a lot of difference, a lot of the sames and a lot of differences. We both have Danhausen winning. You've got House of Black. I've got Death Triangle winning. You've got Jade Cargill. I've got Anna Jay winning. We both have Darby Allin beating Kyle O'Reilly. We both have the Hardys beating the Young Bucks. We both have Eddie Kingston, Bryan Danielson, Jon Moxley, Ortiz, and Santana beating the Jericho Appreciation Society. You've got Powerhouse Hobbs and Ricky Starks coming away as the new AEW World Tag Team Champs, while I've got Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland beating Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus, taking those titles off of them. In the Women Own a Heart Foundation Tournament Final, you've got Britt Baker. I've got Ruby Soho. In the men's, you've got Adam Cole. I've got Samoa Joe. We both have Thunder Rosa defeating Serena Deeb. We both have Wardlow beating MJF. And we both have Hangman Page beating CM Punk. Holy shit, yeah. It is a jam-packed card.
Can't wait to review it next time with you. It'll be good. It'll be good. AEW, when it's time to deliver, always delivers. So I expect that it'll be a plus pay-per-view with a lot of opportunity to shift where the next wave of storylines will evolve. All right, cuz, you teased a lot, so now it's time to pay it off. Hit me at this week's professional wrestling news and notes. What made your list?
A lot to get to this week. Kurt Angle underwent successful surgery earlier this week on Tuesday. Angle confirmed that he had successful double knee surgery and is recovering well. Now remember, I told you that Kyle O'Reilly and Darby Allin were recently integrated into a match for this upcoming pay-per-view card, and that is because a major AEW star is dealing with a bit of an injury. Sting didn't have a match on Double or Nothing, but he was set to take part in the meet and greets as part of the weekend's festivities. AEW tweeted out, due to an injury last week, Sting has not been cleared to travel and will unfortunately not be at this Saturday's AEW Double or Nothing Fan Fest meet and greets. For fans who purchase tickets to see the Icon, watch your inbox for information on refunds. On last week's AEW's Dynamite, Sting appeared on the show's closing segment when he and Darby Allin tried to save the Hardys from the Undisputed Elite. He suffered a targeted attack from the Young Bucks, which was seemingly their way to write him off TV. He had a chair wrapped around his leg, and they jumped on that chair. So Sting has been written off, and that is why Darby Allin is looking for retribution against Kyle O'Reilly. So some more fallout from the Sasha-Naomi walkout as more light was shed on the situation from the broadcast team. Corey Graves' broadcast partner Jimmy Smith recently spoke about the incident on Unlocking the Cage podcast, where he stated that he doesn't understand the fans' ire towards Graves as well as Michael Cole for reading what WWE told them to read. He said, "What I don't get is all this heat that my broadcast partner Corey Graves is getting. They give him something to read, and much like Michael Cole, he tones it down a little bit. But guys, Michael Cole and Corey Graves aren't making this stuff up. People are getting mad at them like they're freestyling this stuff. They're not. If Vince says, here, read this, I would have done exactly what Michael Cole did. Corey Graves is getting all this shit. Corey Graves didn't make up the statement. He is a broadcaster and was told to read it, and he read it. So I understand the ire of the fans, but the misdirection of that is weird." Pat McAfee's reaction to the announcement on SmackDown went viral after the show, which he later revealed was his genuine reaction. If you remember on SmackDown, Pat McAfee looked almost shocked and stunned. So it was kind of interesting. And again, this is all coming from Vince McMahon. This is not these guys just kind of freewheeling it. Vince McMahon is saying, here, read this. And it sounds like they're doing their best to help protect the talent, but get over what the boss wants all at the same time. Kind of put in a bad spot there, a really sticky situation. Now remember, talking about this pay-per-view that we just went over and gave our predictions for, sounds like it's going to be a long one. Now, there may be some big format changes to AEW's Double or Nothing that will affect the CM Punk Hangman Page main event. Appearing on Sports Media with Richard Deitch podcast, AEW President Tony Khan discussed the Double or Nothing event and how the NBA playoffs may affect how they structure the show. AEW is going to structure its pay-per-view around the potential Game 7 between the Miami Heat and the Boston Celtics. Khan related it to the 2012 when Manny Pacquiao fought Timothy Bradley, and they made the call to hold the main event back until the basketball game ended. Khan said that they would do the same if the game is still going on, holding back on the main event between Hangman and CM Punk. Typically, AEW pay-per-views can span nearly 4 hours, so this format change may see the headline bout start after the 4-hour mark of the show, depending on the length of a possible NBA Game 7. So there is going to be a Game 7 on Friday night. The Heat ended up defeating the Boston Celtics. Series is tied at 3. So prepare for a long one. Remember, our last pay-per-view was over 5 hours long. This one appears, with the length of this card, appears to be the same thing. It's going to be a long one, so buckle up and be prepared. Now, Ringside News had a Twitter meltdown and lost a partnership. On May 24th, the website tweeted a lot of transphobic messages about AEW star Nyla Rose. The owner then continued to tweet and retweet those messages. Tony Khan and Chris Jericho tried to get involved and message them, asking them to stop, only for those messages to get retweeted and for them to respond to those wrestlers and the owner in explicit-filled messages. Because of this, USA Today has ended its partnership with Ringside News. A way to blow up everything for yourself. Now, how about this for a pay-per-view? WWE has switched locations for Money in the Bank. A few big names have also been removed. The wake of WWE moving Money in the Bank from Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas to the MGM Grand Garden Arena in Las Vegas, due to it being a smaller venue, Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, Ronda Rousey, Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, and Bobby Lashley were all removed from the pay-per-view poster. Also, Reigns, Lesnar, Flair, and Rousey were removed from the WWE.com Money in the Bank event page. So WWE puts on sale the Money in the Bank tickets, and it's supposed to take place at Allegiant Stadium. That is where the Las Vegas Raiders play. Only after a couple of weeks and some really slow ticket sales to remove it from that location and put it in the MGM Grand Garden, where they've already basically sold that out. They sold, I think that location can hold 24,000 fans. They've already sold 26,000 seats. So now you've got people that basically don't have a seat to this arena. And on top of that, you advertised all these wrestlers only to now pull back the curtain and say, nah, none of these guys are coming. What a switcheroo by WWE. That's going to do it for this week's wrestling news and notes.
Make sure you follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSTROZ. Real quick, what Adam alluded to earlier in the podcast was, I said, if you were given $250,000 a year, $250K contract, but they told you your gimmick was going to be Sal Ortiz, an angry New York cab driver, would you take it? And I think it elicited some good response. Some people were like, yeah, of course. I can then and for sure get released and then up my indie fee. Others were like, hell yeah, angry cabbie. Who wouldn't like it? I couldn't do it. I need to be somebody that I know eventually wants to be on the marquee. I don't want to end up leaving for 6 years like Cody Rhodes and having to do all that work that he had to do, all that traveling. I'd be like, Sal Ortiz, get the fuck out of here. You want to pay me $250,000? Just call me by my real name and let me just be me, and here comes $1 million your way. I would just say, look, guys, Sal Ortiz will get you guys back. There's nothing on this investment. Pay me what you pay me, and let me do my thing. I guarantee you this much money, or you can cut me. So you got to put your balls on the table. You got to hang your nuts out there for a company like WWE, and then you eventually see what happens. But if you want to engage in other wrestling debate during the pay-per-view, hit us up on our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast. We'll be peeking in there as well. Always enjoy Cuz breaking down the world of professional wrestling. This was a good one. It went by way, way too fast, but it's a good time. Anywhere that you find podcasts, you can find the Detroit Sports Podcast. Just type in those 3 words, Detroit Sports Podcast, in any search engine, any podcast location, and our content will find you. I can't wait to watch this weekend. Can't wait to review all the chaos that's going to take place as a result of the fallout. Cuz let's check back in next week for the next edition of the Doc and Jock Wrestling Podcast.